Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Fireside Chat. We're so thrilled to have you today. My name is Lisa Levinson. I'm the Campaigns Director for In Defense of Animals, and I am absolutely delighted and pleased to introduce you to our senior campaigner for our Justice for Animals campaign, no other than the famous Doll Stanley. Hi, Doll.
The infamous.
Oh, well, it's really a treat to have you here today. And I know you've got a lot to share with everyone, so I'm going to actually share my screen with folks. So that way we can share the slides with everyone. So I'll go ahead and do that. Again, it's wonderful to have you here. We also have Mary Esency with us, and she is going to be looking over the chat box. So if you're chatting, you might get a response from her. And just Doll's going to start us off with a little presentation, so you can sit back and relax. And then afterwards, we'll do Q&A. And so you can put your questions in the chat box, and we'll be able to answer them a little bit later. So thanks so much to everyone for joining us. This is really wonderful. Now we're going to the share screen part.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much, everyone. All right. We're going to share the screen, and then we'll get us onto our slideshow. Fantastic. So here we are. We've got Doll ready to go. And then I think you can take it away. This is our very first slide with our chat, and then we'll go to the next one here.
And I'd just like to say how exciting this is to be able to share this with you all. I've been with In Defense of Animals since our conception in 1983, 40 years ago. And I came on board as one of our staff members in 89. So the first few slides you see, just a spattering of our wonderful times at our home office in California. Here I'm with a giraffe. One of the things that In Defense of Animals was able to do was to join in with a coalition that the Board of Supervisors allowed us to inspect the zoo and give our opinions, educated opinions. And quite a few changes were made. At that time, San Francisco Zoo was really having many problems. We can go to the next one. That's one of our fur events that I organized when I was still in California. I was able to work on our wolf campaign to protect the wolves, Procter & Gamble, fur. We just had so many wonderful campaigns. And I spent my vacations for World Week for Animals in Laboratories, usually in a restraint device, fasting for 3 days. And it was amazing, the coverage that we got. The next one. This was from a march. We started at the Stanford University with speakers about the horrific experiments that were being done on animals. And we marched to UCSF in San Francisco to culminate and to let people know that cruelty isn't just in people's backyards. It isn't just on ranches. It isn't on farms. It's in laboratories as well. That's Grace Slick and my dear friend Pat Monahan. We were celebrating my release from jail. I spent a month in jail for the Thule elk, protesting on the island 4 weeks in a row, and they finally caught me and 2 of my friends, and it was well worth it. We had media, tons of media for months afterwards. And as you know, we are still fighting for the Thule elk. no longer on Grizzly Island, but now on the coast.
Did you say Grace Slick from Jefferson Airplane?
Yeah, she was my buddy. We did some die-ins together and stuff. We'll have to talk about it sometime.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Now, this is in Mississippi. I have been here for 30 years. I came because there were two men who were posing as animal control, going to the trade days, illegally acquiring animals to sell them to laboratories across the country. I'm really blessed that I'm adventurous because my undercover work actually even took me on their properties. It took us 6 months to force the USDA to shut those two men down. But in the meantime, we're very active here in Mississippi. This is a circus that came to Winona, Mississippi. We try not just to work on cruelty cases that are reported, but all of the things that are inherently cruel. This was a wonderful dog. I got a phone call. This poor dog, we wound up naming Casper. He would have lost his leg if we had not gotten there in time. And he recovered. And I think the next photo is of his adoption. Nope, sorry, but he was adopted. This is one of the 3 shelters that I worked and got closed down. One of them never reopened. This particular shelter has reopened and is doing beautifully. Unfortunately, all 3 shelters were not run by municipalities. They were run by humane societies that were basically hoarding and didn't know what they were doing and didn't want help. But there, in this particular shelter, there were 366 animals with a shelter capacity of 60. This was a tragic truck wreck. This was last year. A chicken truck driver slid off the road. I got a phone call. She had cats, 3 cats and a dog in her vehicle with her who escaped. The good news is we recovered one of her cats on site, and days later, after exhausting myself going everywhere and doing media, we got her dog back. Unfortunately, 2 of the cats were not found. But when we showed up on the scene, I began snatching chickens, and we called our Hope Animal Sanctuary staff. We were able to actually rescue almost 200 chickens from this wreck, and most of them survived. The next photo, I believe, is my continued search. I met a really wonderful young man who responded and came, and I got down into a cavern there to get that chicken, and the trick was getting back out because it was muddy and the sides were caving, and the young man weighed about 300 pounds and was unable to help me up, but I got out, and I just love that photo. I love chickens. I have literally rescued hundreds of chickens from, well, in the past, we had a chicken plant here, an egg plant. And because I had a mobile home park, and there were people in there that worked there, and they would let me know when the spent hens were going. And I would be nicey nice with the, and we were able to save hundreds. But I will say this, most chickens that are rescued from egg-laying plants, especially at the spent time, they don't survive. They're suffering from swollen head syndrome, which is a disease contracted from living in filth and crowded conditions. This is our boy that I said was adopted. It's a few places down, but there he is, happy, handsome, and with his leg intact. There's a bunny that we have rescued. emus. You'll see some of the other animals that we've rescued. We try to help all species as if at all possible. And one of the beauties about working in Mississippi is there's not the huge population, but there are, since I have been here, there are rescuers here and there and everywhere, and organizations that we join together in these rescues. When there's a puppy mill or something like that that we need help with, we all work together, and it's really a positive thing. I'm presenting an award to this awesome sheriff for his amazing work with a dogfighting case. And standing next to him, the lady in front, she and I are excellent friends. She's one of the deputies. They call me whenever they have a case that they want backup on, and I'm just so proud of them. And this particular award led, you can't see him, I don't think, in the picture, but Senator Deering was there, and he introduced that he was going to introduce legislation to strengthen our dogfighting bill, our statute. And he let me read it. And I said, "I'm sorry, Senator, this is worse than what we've got right now." And he said, "Well, Doll, just show me the way." And we got a really good. Now, what we're doing this year is we're asking Senator Hill to put racketeering in our dogfighting statute, because gambling, selling drugs, there's all, and interstate transport, it should be under the RICO Act. This was one of our hoarding cases. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I have never had a truly sincere hoarder arrested or prosecuted. We use our seizure law, which is excellent. Our seizure law allows us to involve law enforcement, get a seizure order from any court that is available, and we immediately take the animals. Unfortunately, this lady was not mentally well. And as you can see right there, she's striking me on one side. And on the other side, the very first dog that we tried to get off of a chain to help, she was choking it to death, so we couldn't take it. It was quite a struggle, but yeah, we won. That's one of the little dogs that she had there. My girlfriend still has that dog in her home. She actually had cats tethered outside, and you can't tell, but it was rainy weather. It wasn't raining at that moment, but that poor cat couldn't even get to the barrel, and some of the cats had no shelter. So we took the cats and the dogs. I love to do educational programs. I've gone to the Boys and Girls Clubs. I've gone to schools. COVID came along and things kind of changed. We haven't really been able to get back into those resources, but educating our youth is of absolute importance. This is one of my favorite sheriffs. He called me, he got a complaint from some people that someone had chained dogs back in their woods. And what they had done is there were two dogs, they were chained so closely so they could agitate one another, and they were not being fed. They were training them for dog fighting. We were not able to learn who had put those dogs there, but we were able to rescue them. That's a case where I took 54 pit bulls from two neighbors. One had 11 dogs and the other one had the remainder. Mr. and Mississippi hot. We took them to court. It was an extremely harrowing experience. We had everything you can imagine to get them prosecuted. And the judge was their friend, and they let me know that ahead of time. And their attorney used to be our governor. So what the judge did is he basically didn't charge him with anything, but he let me keep all but 17 of the dogs, which he returned to them. But as you can see, right in their house, I have the evidence, them putting dead dogs in bags, just the whole thing. But most of our cases are very successful. We have a very good relationship with law enforcement and the judicial system. This is Dr. Abernethy. I call him Doc. He is my hero. I've had 3 veterinarians since I've been here that will go on cruelty cases with me just about anywhere. And right here, one of our emus had caught its foot on a wire, and he came out and sedated her and got the wire off her foot. This is another case of a dog fighter training his dog on a treadmill using a rabbit to entice. This man is another one of my heroes. This is Dr. Roberts. He is an angel. He has helped me so many times. And the first time I met him, I felt so badly for him. It was a situation where we were not going to be able to save one of the animals. And he literally gripped a tree with all of his might to try not to cry in front of me. Well, in this particular case, this lady left Arkansas because she had an abusive husband. Yes, she was a breeder, but she was not letting anybody have her dogs in this community where she was because she knew they wouldn't be taken care of. But you'll see a picture of her in a minute on the porch. We got 44 dogs from her. You'll see that her house was almost destroyed from the hurricane. Dr. Roberts gave her a place to live, and I worked with my friends, and in 1 month, we had all 44 dogs spayed, neutered, vaccinated, and adopted. Those are the dogs. And the amazing thing was that I had received one of these dogs, one of their relatives, about some months before. One of her friends brought it to me, and I was madly in love with him, and he got placed, and my heart was broken. But when I saw them, I drove up and I said, "Oh my God, it's Eddie's family." It was just so wonderful to be able to help that lady and help those dogs, because none of the dogs were heartworm positive. She was doing an excellent job. That was her house. Believe it or not, that lady was living in the house with those dogs, protecting them. And she even sat on the porch with makeup and curlers because she didn't want to look like somebody that, you would think just didn't care. That's my dog room. I foster. I have 4 permanent dogs. You'll see one of them shortly. And if you hear anybody, they're going in and out right now, but that's my dog area. And they have a huge backyard. Those are 2 of my kitties that were the most recent rescues. I swore I wasn't taking any more. I have 13. They're all well cared for. They actually have a catio right outside that window. And they all get along. The rule in my house is you have to get along. That's the cat room. You can't see all of it. They have lots of places to climb and hide. We were preparing for a flood, and one of my dear friends in town had a warehouse, and he let us set up our crates and get ready to help the animals from the flooded area. We did work Katrina. Well, that was quite a while ago, but we were big time involved in Katrina. We give shot clinics periodically. This is a sweet little boy who came with his grandmother to make sure his dog got a vaccination. And then we tell them how to follow up. We let them know that the rabies vaccination is done at 3 months and it has to be done by a veterinarian, but they need to follow up because this little dog had one vaccination and it'll need 3. Yes, there are people who constrain their poor cows. They hobble them so they can't jump the fence when there's no food. We run into that. We don't run into it often, but we have run into it many times. And once Dr. Katz came to visit, and he and I chased some cows around trying to get them released, but they were too fast for us. So we just had to get hold of the owner. That is our Everett. Everett lives at our sanctuary. He was the most abused horse. It was unbelievable what the man had done to him. He had chained him. You can't tell there, he's got a rope on his neck, but he also had a chain on his neck that had actually worked its way down into the muscle. And he was tethered 20 feet from the pond, tethered by a gigantic tractor tire, and he was starving to death. You see how limp he is there? Wait till you see his next photo. That's our boy. Magnificent. And boy, let me tell you, when he first came, he said, "You're humans and don't mess with me." It took us a while, but we gained his confidence. He will let you do almost anything with him. Okay, this beautiful horse is gaining weight in this picture. You'll see another when we first got her. It took months for her to recover from starvation. This is Celeste. And the animal standing next to her, people go, "Oh, that's a goat." No, it is a Barbados sheep. I got a phone call. A man was traveling in our area. This animal managed to get out of his trailer, and the guy at the sale barn wanted to catch him, kill him, and mount his head. That didn't happen. That's the horse when we first got her. And you can see she had a friend that was a goat. We were not allowed to take the goat because it was not in bad shape. That's my Kenny, my love, my heartthrob. Go ahead and show the next picture and I'll tell you his sad to happy story. Kenny was obviously tethered, neglected, had the most horrible, horrible skin. The first thing he did when he got over to the grass was roll and roll. And I'll show you another photo of, he's named Kenny after my wonderful friend who is the chief of police in Vardaman, where we got him. There he is, getting ready to take our boy home. And there is Kenny, the angel of my bunch. He is the one who is Big Daddy to all of our young fosters. This is a group of my friends, and this wonderful officer here had never been on a cruelty case. We were rescuing horses, and you'll see a very sad picture of one of the horses in the next shot. That horse went straight to MSU, but he was so happy to have joined us and learned how to work a cruelty case. You know, you can give a class. I believe in hands-on. I work with our sheriff's departments. We go out, we explain, we show, we work together. It's awesome. Once in a while, you have one that won't work with you, but that's rare. That's the horse. What had happened, the horses were starving. There were 4 starving horses who belonged to this man. His uncle had a beautiful horse that was in a manger thing. And this poor horse had reached in with his mouth to try and get some food out of the other horse's container bucket while he was eating. And the horse just bit him so hard, it almost destroyed his face. He did recover. Now, this cougar, Puma, belonged to a doctor, was in his backyard. He passed away, and his family called and asked me to come and get him. I went with our van. We loaded him up. It was a huge cage, but it was the most deplorable conditions. It was damp and mosquitoes were just infested. It was horrible. And I had a friend here who he did rescue big cats. And so he took him in. And then when my friend stopped caring for cats, we found another sanctuary to take the rest of his cats. One of the mice, or no, this is one of the rats that I saved. I filed 683 counts of animal cruelty against a man who was a pet shop supplier. He had 683 living creatures confined in his warehouse, and over half of them were dead. So we took him to the cleaners. He not only got prosecuted and fined, but he was banned from working in the town. This is a recent case in Newton, Mississippi. This woman was telling everybody she was a rescuer. She was a sanctuary. And it turned out 76 dogs were taken. And there were many dead. We're in the process of prosecution right now. Let me please give credit to our wonderful friends with Animal Rescue Corps. Tim worked for us years ago. We're really good friends. They have an amazing operation in Tennessee. And when we have a case that is so large that even our friends here can't help, because right now it's a population crisis, he comes in and we help financially to support their efforts. This is just a photo of one of the pitiful animals that I have rescued from puppy mills and closed them down. This is a pig that I got a call, and the woman was so upset. Her brother had a pig. Her brother drank too much. He wasn't taking care of the pig. It was cold. It was getting dark. No, I didn't want to go out. It was wintertime. But my friend and I went, and we found somebody with hay, and we went and filled up the crib with hay, brought the pig food and water, and got the judge to order that the man release the pig to his sister, and she kept the pig as a companion. This little girl that you see, the little white girl, that's Phoenix. Mississippi State University, you'll see one of the photos. They offer free spay and neuter to nonprofit rescues here in Mississippi and shelters. We have an appointment with them on the 6th of December. But what happened is they were at our sanctuary doing spays and neuters for us, and they were getting ready to leave. And one of my dear friends, an elder man, so when I say that, it's because he came zooming up so fast in his vehicle that I thought he was going to crash. He was so upset. He found this little girl in the road, and we pieced it together later. She's a little brat, okay? So she was probably stealing shoes from the neighbor's garage or something. Some evil person poured boiling water on her head when she stood up to say hello. And it rolled down. And then when she stood, it cooked into her back. She would never have made it if she had not had the spirit she had. And I had the blessing of caring for her. Dr. Bushby immediately took her in and provided her with immediate surgeries for what needed to be done. And then she healed. And that was her big brother when the fella that transported her up north got into the shelter and said, no, 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 you can't adopt her out. She has to be mine. They made him go home to his state and come back with his dog to meet her. And guess which one got kicked out of doggy daycare? Not the pit bull. This is a precious girl who volunteered for me. And you can see that our little girl is healing and trusting. And we just loved our little Phoenix. That's Dr. Bushby, my hero. I can call him anytime, email him anytime. Actually, I called him yesterday. I need his help convincing a district attorney that a cat is a domesticated animal. He says it's feral. The cat was feral. Well, first of all, if the cat was feral, how did she catch it? It's a cruelty case. We're going to win. Don't worry. This is one of the pigs that we had. This one has passed away. We still have one. But this dear little boy, you can see how gentle our animals are. The pigs were actually better than some of the dogs. And this little boy would come with his grandmother who volunteered, and she and I are still best friends. We've worked together a lot on animal issues. This is little Austin. There, I'm handing a deputy our reward check. Some people did the most horrific thing, I'm not even going to tell you, to a cat. We got them prosecuted. And the reason why I'm handing a check with a reward is because we put out a reward to find the people. We had photos, but we didn't know where they were. And the person who came forward got the check. This is the district attorney in Memphis, Tennessee. He is an angel. You know, the number one thing that everybody needs to know, if you care about animals and you want things to go well, you have to get to know your law enforcement officers, your judicial system, and you will learn a lot. Like I often in my alerts say, no plea deal. In this particular case, this district attorney and his ADA met with me for 2 hours. And one of the things they opened my eyes to was sometimes they do a plea deal so they can get extra punishments in the sentencing that is not in the statute. That's the dog that we were meeting about. She's doing well, but that evil man doused her with gasoline, set her on fire, threatened the neighbors. He's in trouble. These are two of my friends. The mother is a volunteer at the shelter in Grenada, Mississippi. Her precious daughter is my sidekick. And we were on our way to rescue a dog in Louisville, Mississippi. And I had seen this dog a couple of days before on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere, fortunately near a creek. So we brought our trap and we caught our guy, and he's been adopted. This was one of our goats. Like I said, we took everybody. This particular goat really didn't appreciate us as much as some of the others because she was feral. Do you see what's behind this dog? That is an air conditioner cover. It was below freezing. And I call him my judge, the judge in the county that I'm in. Oh my, all I have to do is pick up the phone and I have the animal. We got her and she was placed. And then we got a horse from those people. And unfortunately, enough time had passed that we couldn't refer in her trial, that I had had her and her ex-husband arrested for dogfighting in the past. This is the Tippah County Fair. They have this horrible thing at their fair where they do these chases, rabbits, chickens, pigs, steers. They just let the kids go wild on them. And you would think that with all the negative publicity there's been, that they would stop doing it. What I tell everybody is when people don't get it, when they don't either have a conscience or they don't care, if you don't have an economic impact, or if you can't get law enforcement to go along with you that some of this activity is cruel, it's very difficult. It'll take maybe generations to stop. Right there, we are protesting Farm Bureau. Farm Bureau is a huge organization. This is an agricultural state. And we got a lot of people to change their insurance company because Farm Bureau always opposes our legislation for protection for animals because they're afraid we're going to come and take their cows. Well, and one thing that turned out very well, and again, get to know people. I had a meeting with the head of the Farm Bureau with my friend who was with the Mississippi Animal Rescue League. And when we sat down, he let us know that the last person had been very rude to him. And I said, well, we'll find common ground. And he said, you're a vegetarian. I looked at your Facebook page. I said, I'm not vegetarian, I'm vegan. I didn't tell you what to eat. Let's move on. By the time we left, he was telling me how upset he was with his wife because she purchased a bred dog instead of adopting. So, when you get to know people, it's surprising. We don't all have cooties. Let's work together. This is something that I promote at shelters here in Mississippi. It's called Who Will Let the Dogs Out? And we can't get out of there until we each have raised $500 to help the shelter. We raised it. Oh, we raised a lot of money. That shelter is actually being rebuilt very shortly. Now, this right here is the shelter in our town. It has some improvement. It's not so open like that, but we can complain all we want. But when you're in communities where there just isn't the money, animals are on the bottom of the totem pole because they're trying to patch their streets and do all kinds of things for the people. But they work well with us, at least till recently, when I had to expose them for shooting dogs. This dog, again, reward. I had a cruelty case with a wonderful woman in Louisville who called me, and she had a sheriff's department who had never cooperated with a cruelty case before. You know what? If you go in and you show them, I know what I'm doing. I'm not telling you I'm smarter than you, and I have the resources. So we got all the dogs, but the fella knew we were coming back, and he took the German Shepherd and he hid it. So we put out a reward, and we did get a strike, and I got another seizure order, and we went, and this poor baby was tied in the woods. His neck was all cut from chain and everything. It was wide open. He did very well, and he got a wonderful home. And it was a good thing that I always work with deputies, because the man showed up shortly after we left with a gun, threatening the men who had allowed me on the property to get the dog. He even acted out in court, but the judge handled it. I think that's it. Do we have questions?
Yes, well, thank you so much, Doll. We do have some questions for you. I think that Mary will help us, and it looks like some people have raised their hand. So if you raised your hand, we can go ahead and unmute you if you'd like to ask your question. This is for Terry.
Hi, Terry.
Good afternoon. Thank you for hosting this event, and thank you so much for everything you and your organization have done for animal. I'm a newbie here from Los Angeles, so I just signed up. Yeah, and I do have a question for foie gras. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, can you hear me? Yeah, so I have a question for foie gras. Foie gras, the fatty liver.
Yes.
Yes.
We have another campaigner that does work on that. Yes.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, when will you campaign, or are you campaigning right now, and where? Because I want to participate if possible.
I'm going to let Lisa follow up with you if possible.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for reaching out with that question. We do have another campaigner who works on the farm animal issues, and so we'll try to connect you with them. And I think we've been involved in the foie gras campaign in New York, actually.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Terry. So we're
Thank
gonna,
you, Terry.
Thank you.
yes. So now why don't we have Jim? Would you like to join us and
Yes,
ask?
I
Hi,
would.
Jim.
Hi, Dal. Lisa and I are old compatriots. I've been joining her animal advocacy on Thursdays. Wonderful work that you've done. You're an amazing individual. My one question and somewhat of concern, and please don't feel that this is an offense, but it's wonderful that you have access to these judges that you've worked for and collaborated with. But how do others look at that? That sometimes that may be kind of a brinkmanship in the judicial process. I mean, there are instances where people do leave an animal. I mean, I do animal rescue work in Mexico. I've seen the worst of worse, but there are occasions, animals do live outside. They have lived outside for millenniums. And I would hope that at a one time of a fair that you'd have a report that, a judge would be contacted and saying, hey, look at me, look at this, let's take this off. How do you balance that?
Well, there are many cases. We actually posted a video from last winter. I got a phone call, and I kind of felt like it was one of those ugly calls. The people are horrible. They're not taking care of their dogs. So I prepare. I went with dog houses that I personally purchased. And hey, I took a deputy, and the people came out. They were the sweetest, kindest people. They lived in a very small home. Their cat lived inside. So, they cared. So we set up the dog houses. We gave them the hay. I gave them some food, but I let them know that that was not something I'd be able to continue doing. And often we'll take the dogs and have them vaccinated, spayed or neutered. We do the best we can. The thing is that there is so much to be done. And like right now, I'm sitting here not thinking, but I know how much I have to do in the next few days. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get it done. Let me show you this.
Oh, wow.
I have a living room full of boxes of toys and blankets that I'm going to be taking to our sanctuary and to one of the regional organizations that I helped found. I actually am on the board or involved in a number of grassroots groups here in Mississippi because they need guidance. More than that, they want confidence, and they don't always feel, especially when it comes to filing cruelty charges, not hardly anybody wants to do it. They all call on me. But yeah, there's many ways to handle it. And just because an animal is outside doesn't necessarily mean that it's got the worst life. It depends on how it's being cared for.
Yeah, I would, yeah, I certainly wouldn't be in the position of ever, telling anybody how to best protect the animals. Just that, we always have to be err on the side of the law because, we can't, and it's a very, very delicate balance act, but, to impede upon, the law, because then we're looked at as like vigilantes.
Right.
And even though the saving or the ameliorating of any animal suffering, I would be willing to go through what you've done. We also have that, because then if that's done, then what else is going to be done in the name of something, so, and thank you for the
We have a
discipline.
really good balance with it here. We have a great reputation. We have law enforcement call us from all over, and I can pick up the phone. I have most of the sheriffs that I work with, I have their cell numbers. I'll ask them, go check this out. For example, somebody will call and say, oh, well, we just got this one. The guy has a bunch of horses and stuff, and he's not taking care of them. Well, my friend that you saw helping trap the dog, she and her daughter went, they videoed, the horses are fine. We had somebody tell us that Everett was dead because he was lying, sleeping, basking in the sun. Yeah, you really, and here's the thing, never disrespect these people. Never. What have you told them? You mean nothing to me. I'm here because I love your animal. What kind of result are you going to get? I actually have a couple here in my county that a few years back, I had them both arrested. Their dogs were in the most horrific shape. Do you know they both got $1,000 fine? They were prohibited from having another animal for 5 years. Do you know that they called me about somebody else in the neighborhood, and they weren't doing it like, well, that person too. They got the message. There was one lady who was a hoarder in northern Mississippi. Actually, she wound up being animal control in a sense for the neighborhood. When I first went up there, she had had a horrible experience with another group who made her feel horrible and made her think they were just going to kill her animals. And so I made friends with her, and I stopped making my little score marks in my little login book at 164. Over the years, she'd call me every couple of months. I can't find out who these dogs belong to. Please come and get them.
Yes, we attract
We
more
can't
flies.
always do that right now. The population issue is insane. And I don't understand the groups, from what I'm understanding, that some of the foundations now are funding sheltering and getting the dogs out instead of spay and neuter. Spay and neuter is the only answer. Only.
Well, thank you, Doll, so much for that answer there. And thanks to Jim for speaking up. Really appreciate it. So let's see if there's anyone else who has a question. We did get a good question in the chat, and this is related to about different laws that just checking in to see. Let me see where it is. do you advocate for changes in laws and new laws to protect animals in these states?
Let me just say this, and I'll just give you a few examples. The first case we had with those two dog dealers, Mississippi State passed regulations for animal dealers that are tougher than the USDA, and now we don't have animal dealers in our state. The only thing they made a mistake, they didn't include out-of-state dealers that might come into our trade days. But the main one who was coming in was CC Baird, and he got shut down too. And the other thing, I'm afraid I'm losing track here. Oh yeah, our dog fighting law, our Dog and Cat Protection Act, our seizure law. We played a role in all of these, and we've had ordinances passed. We're very active in that way, and we have to understand that we do have a legislative body in Mississippi that is predominantly conservative, and many of them, including Senator Hill, she's a rancher, but she has drafted and gotten more animal protective bills for dogs and cats than anybody else.
Wow, that's fantastic, Doll. Pretty amazing. Looks like we have, well, first, just to let you know, people are saying in the chat, you are an angel. They'd like to learn to be more.
I'm just blessed. No, I'm just blessed. And I guess I'm kind of lucky that my childhood was interesting, and I've had a very interesting life. I survived 3 years in Iran under terrible conditions. I just have the spirit for survival. I can't abide suffering. I just can't abide suffering, whether it's humans or animals. And no, I don't hate people. I'm a people, and I love all my friends. And there are some people that are just very disappointing, and we need to work on them.
Yes, we do. Oh gosh. Just checking to see, maybe Mary, are there any other questions you think that we'd want to highlight?
The one that I thought was interesting was people who are asking, how can they do what you do? How can they be as effective as you are and pull off what you pull off? It's amazing.
Well, you have to understand too that some of us, just fate put us in the right place at the right time. I was living on a rodeo ranch as a guest. My boyfriend was a bull rider and a senior roper, and I moved to the ranch, and I started seeing what the realities were. And I would go to the rodeos with them, and I would stand on the fence and I would scream, "Miss, Miss Richie, Miss." Everybody thought I was just so cute. Look at his little girlfriend. Okay, well, Bob Barker was part of Mobilization for Animals in 1983, and I spotted it on TV. And nobody was in the room, and I went, "I'm going to that." I went, I came home to a mostly horse ranch, but there were cattle too. And when the meat place passed me at dinner time, oh, what's going on? She's betraying us. I looked at everybody and I said, chill. We're family. I'm doing my thing. Hopefully you'll want to make changes. We were all best friends. And as a matter of fact, my buddy Harry that owned the ranch stopped raising cattle. Yeah, he still ate them, but he said, I can't send them to market anymore. And he was lucky. He was in a wealthy area in Woodside, where actually in Patola Valley, right above Stanford University and all that stuff. And he could profit from boarding horses and training. But that's how I kind of got started. And then most of the groups that I contacted were too busy to have me volunteer. So I met a woman who had me file for her once a week. And I was very frustrating to her because I read everything that I filed. You have to, number one, educate yourself. Number two, connect with the right people. It didn't take very long that I had 80 people on a list, and I would call them and say, hey, this is going on, show up. We had protests and vigils going on all over the Bay Area. And then Dr. Katz, I went to Alaska for the wolf campaign. And then Dr. Katz said, you're going to Mississippi. These two ladies are basically driving me crazy about these men who have stolen some dogs. And they were bad guys. I can't even tell you the half of it. And I didn't want to go, but I went. And I stayed because there was so much work to do here. I think more than anything, I'm not a veterinarian. And until I came here and we opened our sanctuary and I started rescuing, I didn't know about all the different species and how to care for them. But as soon as I got one, I got hold of the right people and I found out how to do it. Connect with an organization that has the possibility of you getting involved. You have to understand that all of this costs huge money, huge money. Rescue is very expensive, and I think most of you probably know that. And when it comes to laws, a lot of people think that the PACT Act applies to the dogs in your community. No, that was strictly written to protect animals on a federal level from crush films and for interstate transport, for fighting and so forth. It has nothing to do with whether or not the guy next door shot somebody's dog. The other thing is, don't ever go in with assumptions. Go in and take a good read of what's going on, because what might look one way or another way, it might look okay and it's not, and it might look horrible and maybe it is, but it's fixable. You're also often in our area working with people that are on, if you want to call it fixed income, they're living at below poverty level. Hoarders, when we remove their animals, unless they're going to be going to a convalescent home or something, I generally allow them to keep 3 animals that I personally have spayed, neutered, vaccinated, because I know they can take care of them. And then I stay in connection with them. There was one man, it took us years working with him, and we finally had to threaten to put him in jail if he didn't help us catch the rest of his animals. And then I'd be downtown, and he'd be yelling from across the street, hey, everybody, that lady helped me. She saved my animals. You just don't know what you're going to walk into. And most people that are hoarders have severe emotional injury in their lives. His mother shot his father with a shotgun in the stomach when he was 12 years old. One of my other ones, she saw her father electrocuted. There have been a few hoarding cases where they weren't nice people, that it wasn't about the animals. They basically hated people, and the animals were their kingdom so they could control them. That does happen. And in a case like that, yes, the law is going to get involved.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Doll. Gee, this has been an incredible opportunity to hear more about what you do at IDA, a little bit of the work you do behind the scenes. And we're just so thrilled that you've shared all this with us today. I know that there have been some great questions and there may be more, and you can always reach out to Doll if you have more questions by email. And we'll put that into the chat here. And
I just saw a comment, and I was able to say this. In 1990, when we had the huge animal rights presence at the Capitol in DC, and I was able to speak. Dr. Katz gave me part of his time. And the one thing that I told everybody, we aren't heroes. We're just people doing what we're all supposed to do. Anybody that's on this planet should be contributing to the welfare of one another and the environment. Just that simple. To me, a hero is somebody that will die for their enemy. That to me is a hero.
wow. Well, thank you, Doll, for all that
I'm
you do.
so pleased to have been able to engage with you this evening. I have thousands of pictures that I would love to show you all, but I just kind of handpicked some to kind of give you a general idea.
Well, those were perfect. And I wanted to take a moment and just mention to everyone, in combination with all this great work that Doll is doing for our Justice for Animals campaign and our sanctuary that she's referenced, the Hope Animal Sanctuary, we have started a new spay-neuter program there in the area in the Deep South, especially in a couple counties in Mississippi. So we're really excited to have launched that and to offer this service to the community. And for anyone who's curious to know more about Hope Animal Sanctuary, that will be our featured Fireside Chat for December. So stay tuned for all of that. Just want to take a moment and thank some of our staff who are here. We've got Mary Eastency, who's joined us with our development team. And then we also have Bob Price. So I'm going to invite you to say hi if you'd like. We'll all just take a moment and do that. And wanted to thank all of you for joining us tonight. It's been really a pleasure. And we hope that we'll see you again in another Fireside Chat. And special thanks to Doll, who is really...
Well, I want to thank the staff, because Mary is one of the ones who is a huge support for me. I hate writing. When I was young, I was a good writer. I don't even want to write. So I write, and either she or Alicia helps edit and pick out things for me. And there's a wonderful woman who's not even with our organization, named Jan Carpel, who does research for me. Nobody is doing this in a vacuum. None of us could do this if we didn't. And it isn't networking, it's nurturing, it's working together.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Doll. And thanks to everybody for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful evening and that we'll get to see you next time. Thanks so much,
Thank you,
everyone.
Doll.
Good
Thank
night.
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye, everyone.